Alright, today we're going to be making some root beer with dry ice. Now there does need to be a little bit of a safety concern. Dry ice can give you a cold burn, so don't handle it with bare skin. If you're going to handle it, make sure you use tongs, a spoon, preferably not a metal spoon, some protective eyewear and gloves if it's coming anywhere near your hands. Also make sure you do not digest the dry ice. We're putting it in the drink, but we're making sure 100% that it's dissolved before the drink goes anywhere near someone's mouth. To do this, we are doing it with an essence. Now there's quite a few on the market. You can get something like these ones here. If you're not in the US, they're a little bit harder to find, but thanks to the internet, it is possible to order a lot of stuff online. You can also go something for like a sassafras tea, which will have a very traditional sort of root beer sort of taste to it, as root beer used to be made out of sassafras roots, and then they stopped doing that because there were debates over whether it could be carcinogenic. I personally don't think they are. The levels that they tested it in lab rats were higher than anyone would possibly consume, but better to be safe than sorry if you're not sure. This stuff has the safrole taken out of it, which is the carcinogenic part. A little side note, some people also say the reason it was made illegal is safrole is a precursor for MDMA. And the government didn't want something that was really high in a precursor for MDMA out there. You can also make your own essence. I might do another video on how to make it. This one's here is one that I've made. So you've got quite a few different options. Other than that, you're going to need some just standard white sugar. You're going to need some water, just regular tap water, as long as it's good to drink in your area and not too chlorinated. And of course, you're going to need some dry ice. Now the dry ice is a bit harder to get, but if you look around, you should be able to find it in a directory somewhere in your hometown that you can get it. You'll probably just have to make a special trip for it. And you're also going to need a insulated cooler. Something like the polystyrene box here is perfect to pick it up. All right, so to start with, we are going to use, because root beer is traditionally an American thing, a lot of the quantities that you'll get on recipes are American, but we're going to need 3 quarts of water. That equals about 2.8 litres of water. I've measured it out here. And we're going to pour that in a large bowl. Now you want a bit of room on the top of the bowl because this is going to bubble as we make it. Now let's hope I've allowed enough and it doesn't bubble over. Alright, you're also going to need 2.5 cups of white sugar. You can use honey, you can use brown sugar. Each one will have their own unique flavour. I'm just keeping it simple for this video, but play around and see what you like. So that's 1 cup, 2 cups, and a half. Now with this you can adjust it. You can add a little bit more sugar if you've got a sweet tooth, a little bit less if you don't like it as sweet. If you're health conscious, you can swap it for stevia or a sugar substitute. And you just want to dissolve all that sugar into the water. Now I'm using an electric mixer, but you can use a whisk or a spoon if you don't have one. I'm just being lazy. So I'm second guessing just how much room that we've got here. And I mean, you're allowed to make mistakes. So if you're in a similar boat, find a bigger container and give yourself a bit more room to work with where you don't have to be worried about it splashing over. Once you've got all your sugar dissolved, we're just going to add our root beer extract. So I'm going to be working with, which one should I use today? Let's work with the big H one. So this is apparently based off a company that was one of the longest running root beer producers, so they claim. Some people say this tastes different to what it used to taste like. I've just got to work with what I've got. So yeah, find one that you like the taste of. It doesn't matter if it's traditional, if it's popular, or if it's not popular. If you like it, that's what matters. So the strength of your extract will vary. Different ones, if it's a commercial one, might say the strength to use. Otherwise, just experiment a little bit and see what works. So for this one, it says to use 2 tablespoons, that's 60 milliliters or 1 ounce. So I'm going to put that in there for the quantity of syrup that we're going with. And I'm also just going to give the shot glass a little bit of a rinse in there because we don't want to waste our good flavour. Alrighty. Now, put the lid on that, put it in the fridge just so it keeps, and it is good for later to make up more. Next step, we are doing the dry ice. So I'm going to grab some gloves and some eyewear and I'll be back. Okay, now we want about 3/4 pound or 0.35 kilograms of dry ice. So don't touch this with your bare skin. So we're just going to load it into a jug for the scales and we'll see how much we've got. Getting close, a little more. Alright, that's slightly over, but that should work. And we're just going to pour it in here and then mix it all up. Now, doesn't that look cool? Feels like a witch's cauldron or something. Make sure you put your lid back on your cooler to keep the rest of your dry ice. Listen to that bubble, give it a stir. And this is what's going to carbonate your drink. Plus it just makes you feel like a mad scientist. Now if you're having a Halloween party, make sure no one drinks it at this stage. Can you think of anything cooler as a centerpiece for your table than a bubbling cauldron with misty fog coming off it? Now this, what's coming off it, dry ice, is CO2 or carbon dioxide. It's perfectly fine, it's in our atmosphere, but you don't want to have a concentrated amount of this. So make sure your pet's not sitting below the table as you're doing it or anything, because it's going to sink down and will dilute the air. So this will not only carbonate your drink, but it's also going to make it nice and chilly, so it's quite cold and refreshing on a warm day. Now, unlike real ice, all the dry ice is just evaporating off, so you won't actually have any dilution of the liquid that we made up earlier. So if you want, you can taste it a little bit before you add the dry ice, and that'll give you a good indication of what the final product will taste like. Just a bit warmer and not carbonated. So if you want it a bit sweeter, you can add a bit more sweetener. If you want it a bit less intense flavour, you can add a little bit more water and adjust it accordingly there. You want to make sure all the dry ice is completely dissolved before you dish it up, because you don't want anyone swallowing a piece of it, because it can cause a real severe injuries if ingested. So a bit of safety is required, but considering how cool it looks when you're doing it, I think it's worth it. Now you will notice there'll be a couple of little chunks that you might end up with. Let me see if I can get one out there. So a couple of little chunks like that. And what that probably is just a bit of frozen material around the dry ice. It's nothing to be concerned about, but we don't want to eat it just yet because there might still be a little bit of dry ice in the middle, which we don't want into us. So there's two options. You can either strain it through something like a tea strainer into your mug, or you can just be cautious, or I guess the third one is just wait a little bit longer. So let me see if I can find a soup ladle to dish up some of this. So you can drink this straight up, or you can do the classic root beer float or root beer spider if you got a bit of vanilla ice cream just in the top of the mug. Just allow some room for it to fizz up if you are going to do that. Cheers. Now that's delicious. It has a very different carbonation to forced carbonation from CO2 gas. The bubbles are just a lot smaller, a lot finer. They tingle on your tongue. It's, yeah, beautiful.